She playing with your feet. That's a prostitute. And Jesus said, do you really see her? Because in church we have a seeing problem. We have an eye problem in church. We're just like Moses and the 10 spies. And we are just like those spies, because 2 of them came back with a good report. 2 of them came back and Moses says, what did you see? And they says, most of them says, man, we can't go in there. What did you see? We saw, man, we like grasshoppers. We can't go in there. But 2 of them, Joshua and Caleb, says, I don't care what they saw when they went in, but let me tell you what we saw. And then they pulled out the grapes. And then they said, man, look at this, look at this. Look at this, man, we are. And they says, we are well able to overcome, because we know the God that we serve. 10 of them. And in the church, it's the same thing. I don't know what we see sometimes, what we see in people, what we should not be seeing in people, and we condemn people because we are seeing the wrong things. And I believe it's this. We are blind to what is most important because we are distracted by things that are not really important. And all they were seeing, oh, she's a prostitute. That's not what Jesus was seeing. Jesus was seeing beyond the practice of prostitution. And Jesus is saying, do you see her? She didn't get anybody's permission to come in there. But there she was. She didn't belong in the inner circle. But there she was. And Jesus, do you see her? What do you see when you see her? As somebody who didn't get permission to come in here? Oh, we do it in church all the time. We see people come in church, and what do we really see when we see people? We see problems. She is a problem. That's what we see when we come in church, or when people come in church, when people come in the front door, we see a whole bunch of problems. God help us. What do you see? I pray that God would bring us to the place where we see possibilities rather than problems. I saw in camp this week a lot of doctors and a lot of lawyers and a lot of engineers. That's what I saw. I saw in camp this week a lot of pastors. I saw in our little children, I saw this week, I just saw, and I can envision 20 years from now. Look at them, and I can remember camp this week. Ornery, disrespectful, don't care, in your face. But God help us that we can look beyond that, that we must have more than sight. We must have vision. That's why Jesus says, do you see this woman? And I saw our children this week, and by gosh, we didn't have to put any one of them out of camp. Did we almost? Joshua was there one day, we almost. We didn't have to put anybody out of camp. That doesn't mean that we didn't almost. Marie had 2 kids here. But when you look beyond the ordinary, when you look beyond and you see the potential in all of these kids, we hear the word, do you see this child? And when that happens, we move beyond the pain and the heartaches we get from these children. And we see the great possibilities of what Jesus will do and what he has done for all of us. Thirdly, we in the church are blind because we can't see the work of God when the evidence is standing right in front of us. And that's why Jesus gave that little story, and Jesus says, these two people, Jesus was saying, you don't know where that woman came from, and she has been forgiven. You don't even understand that it was just last week she was a prostitute. You just don't understand that it was just last week she was selling her body. But here she is, praising me. Here she is, lavishing this ointment on my feet, and all the other folks can talk about is the fact what she used to do last week. Boy, I was preparing the sermon and I almost prayed, Lord, could you send us a whole lot of prostitutes in here? Just to see what we would do and hear people talking about, oh, she come to take my man. That's what we'd be talking about. Do you see her? That's when the drug addict comes in here. Do you see him? The same grace by which you yourself have been touched. That's why I'm asking you, do you see her? Because some of us think we have been touched by special grace. No, we've been touched by the same grace. Oh, man. Do you see her? Do you see her? Touched by the same grace that I've been touched by and with? That you mean Jesus touched me because, I'm special. 70 years ago, God delivered me. I'm special, very special. And I've been blessed through the years. I shouldn't even be here. But God was gracious to me. And boy, as good as God has been to me. And every now and then I meet somebody and I realize, man, gosh, God has touched them with the same grace that God has touched me with.